The Atlantic Ocean whispered its secrets to the shores of Gilgo Beach, Long Island, on a cold December morning in 2010. The sun had barely risen, casting a pale, gray light over the desolate stretch of sand and dunes. The beach was eerily quiet, save for the rhythmic crashing of waves and the occasional cry of a seagull. It was a place where locals walked their dogs, families built sandcastles, and fishermen cast their lines into the surf. But on this day, Gilgo Beach would reveal a darkness that had been lurking beneath its serene surface for years. Officer John Mallory of the Suffolk County Police Department was patrolling the area, his boots crunching against the frozen sand. He was searching for a missing woman, Shannan Gilbert, a 24-year-old escort who had vanished months earlier after a client's call in nearby Oak Beach. Mallory's eyes scanned the horizon, hoping for any sign of her. What he found instead would send shockwaves through the community and unravel a mystery that would haunt Long Island for decades. There, partially buried in the underbrush, was a human skull. Mallory's heart raced as he radioed for backup. Within hours, the beach was swarming with police officers, forensic teams, and cadaver dogs. As they combed the area, more remains were discovered. Not just one body, but 4, and as the days turned into weeks, the number grew to 10. The victims were all young women, most of them escorts who had advertised their services online. They had been discarded like trash, their bodies left to decompose in the dense thickets of Gilgo Beach. The media dubbed the killer the Long Island Serial Killer, or LISK, but who was he, and why had he chosen this quiet stretch of coastline as his hunting ground? The story of the Long Island serial killer begins not with the discovery of the bodies, but with the lives of the victims, women who were more than just headlines or statistics. They were daughters, sisters, and friends. They had dreams, struggles, and stories that deserved to be told. One of the first victims identified was Maureen Brainerd Barnes, a 25-year-old mother from Norwich, Connecticut. Maureen had fallen on hard times after losing her job and was struggling to support her young son. Desperate for money, she turned to escort work, advertising her services on Craigslist. On July 9, 2007, Maureen traveled to New York City for a client meeting. She was never seen alive again. Maureen's family reported her missing, but the police were slow to act. She was an escort after all, and her lifestyle made her a low priority in their eyes. Her sister, Melissa, refused to give up. She tirelessly searched for answers, even creating a Facebook page to raise awareness about Maureen's disappearance. But as the months turned into years, hope began to fade. Then there was Melissa Barthelemy, a 24-year-old from the Bronx. Melissa was known for her fiery personality and quick wit. She had dreams of becoming a fashion designer, but found herself drawn into the world of escort work to make ends meet. On July 10, 2009, Melissa left her apartment for a client meeting and never returned. Her family was devastated, and her younger sister Amanda became determined to find out what had happened to her. Amber Lynn Costello, a 27-year-old from North Carolina, was another victim. Amber had a troubled past, struggling with addiction and homelessness. She had moved to Long Island in hopes of starting over, but the lure of quick money led her back to escort work. On September 2, 2010, Amber left her home in West Babylon to meet a client. She was never seen again. And then there was Megan Waterman, a 22-year-old from Maine. Megan was a single mother who had turned to escort work to support her young daughter. On June 6, 2010, she traveled to Hopoge, New York, for a client meeting. Like the others, she vanished without a trace. These women were connected not just by their tragic fates, but by the circumstances of their disappearances. They had all advertised their services online, and they had all gone to meet clients who promised to pay them well. But something had gone horribly wrong. The discovery of the bodies on Gilgo Beach was a turning point in the investigation, but it was the disappearance of Shannan Gilbert that had initially brought the police to the area. Shannan was different from the other victims. She wasn't just another missing escort. She was a woman who had fought for her life. On the night of May 1, 2010, Shannan had been hired by a client in Oak Beach, a gated community near Gilgo Beach. She arrived at the client's house with her driver, Michael Pack, and everything seemed normal at first. But as the night wore on, Shannan began to act strangely. She became paranoid, claiming that someone was trying to kill her. She fled the house, knocking on doors and screaming for help. One of the residents, a man named Gus Coletti, called 911, but by the time the police arrived, Shannan had disappeared into the night. The police conducted a search of the area but found no trace of her. It wasn't until months later, when Officer Mallory stumbled upon the remains on Gilgo Beach, that the connection was made. Shannan's disappearance had led the police to a serial killer's dumping ground. But was Shannan a victim of the Long Island serial killer, or was her death a tragic accident? The question would haunt investigators for years. As the police began to piece together the evidence, a chilling pattern emerged. The victims had all been strangled or asphyxiated, and their bodies had been carefully wrapped in burlap sacks before being dumped on Gilgo Beach. The killer had chosen his dumping ground well. The dense underbrush and remote location made it unlikely that the bodies would be discovered. The police focused their attention on the victims' phones, hoping to find clues that would lead them to the killer. In Melissa Barthelomy's case, they discovered something particularly disturbing. After her disappearance, someone had used her phone to taunt her younger sister Amanda. The calls were chilling, with the caller claiming to be Melissa and saying things like, "I'm still alive, but you'll never find me." The calls stopped after a few weeks, leaving Amanda terrified and heartbroken. The police traced the calls to various locations in New York City, but they were unable to pinpoint the caller's identity. It was a frustrating dead end, but it also provided a glimpse into the killer's psyche. He was someone who enjoyed playing games, someone who derived pleasure from the suffering of others. As the investigation continued, the police began to focus on a suspect, James Burke, the chief of the Suffolk County Police Department. Burke had a history of corruption and was known for his volatile temper. Some investigators believed that he had hindered the investigation to protect himself or someone close to him, but without concrete evidence, they were unable to make an arrest. Oak Beach, the community where Shannan Gilbert had disappeared, became a focal point of the investigation. It was a quiet, affluent neighborhood, but beneath its polished surface lay a web of secrets and lies. One of the residents, a doctor named Peter Hackett, came under scrutiny after it was revealed that he had made a strange phone call to Shannan's mother shortly after her disappearance. Hackett claimed that he had tried to help Shannan on the night she vanished, but his story was full of inconsistencies. Some investigators believed that he knew more than he was letting on, but they were unable to prove it. Another resident, Joseph Brewer, was also questioned. Brewer had been Shannan's client on the night she disappeared, and his behavior during the investigation raised red flags. He had hired a high-profile attorney and refused to cooperate with the police. But like Hackett, there was no concrete evidence linking him to the murders. As the investigation dragged on, the families of the victims grew increasingly frustrated. They felt that the police were not doing enough to solve the case, and they were right. The investigation was plagued by incompetence, corruption, and infighting. It seemed that the Long Island serial killer would never be caught. The Long Island serial killer case remains unsolved to this day. The victims' families continue to fight for justice, but the trail has gone cold. The killer's identity remains a mystery, and the shadows of Gilgo Beach continue to haunt Long Island. But the story of the Long Island serial killer is more than just a tale of unsolved murders. It is a story about the lives that were lost, the families that were shattered, and the community that was forever changed. It is a reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, and that the search for justice is never over. As the waves of the Atlantic continue to crash against the shores of Gilgo Beach, they carry with them the echoes of the past. The victims may be gone, but they will never be forgotten. And somewhere, out there, the Long Island serial killer waits, a shadow in the darkness, a monster in the night. As the waves of Gilgo Beach continue to whisper their secrets, one question remains unanswered. Who is the Long Island serial killer? The shadows of this case stretch far and wide, leaving us to wonder if the truth will ever come to light. But one thing is certain: evil often hides in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. If you were captivated by this chilling tale, make sure to subscribe to Dark Case Files and hit the notification bell so you never miss a deep dive into the world's most haunting mysteries. Every like, comment, and share helps us bring these stories to life and honor the memories of those who were lost. Before you go, I want to leave you with this question. Do you think the Long Island serial killer is still out there, or has he vanished into the shadows forever? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the darkness. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, the truth is out there. This is Dark Case Files signing off.